It was just a simple beach trip with my son, but one moment changed everything, revealing a truth about loneliness that I never saw coming. Stay with me to uncover the heartbreaking reality I couldn't escape. 2 years have passed since everything changed. It was supposed to be easy. A trip to the beach with my son Leo. Ethan, my husband, couldn't come with us. He didn't. Work was always the most important thing, and I was used to being by myself. But that day felt different in some way, not only back then but also now. While the sun warmed us, we spread out the towels. It might have been too warm that day. I laid down enjoying a rare break from the noise of the world and asked Leo to help me put sunscreen on my shoulders. I didn't think about it. I have a kid. My kid? Why would I? At first, it looked like he was just helping me out with his hands. I saw it after that. He applied the sunscreen carefully, focusing on my shoulders. I didn't stop him. Why did I not do it? You believe you know yourself, your family, but sometimes one moment can break everything down. For me, it took place at the beach that day. Since then, I've not been the same. I had been married to Ethan for over 15 years. People who knew us would have told you we were a great match, a lovely home, wonderful children, and a steady existence. It's not until you're inside that you notice the problems. Being hollow is something you can't feel unless you're living it. Ethan's work was all he thought about for years. Weekends, late nights, and even holidays. He did it for us. I used to tell myself that his hard work and dedication were meant to make things better for our family in the future. But that line of thinking stopped making sense after a while. How much is a house worth if no one lives in it? He could no longer see me. He barely looked at me when he got home. He stopped asking about my health, wants, and needs. We talked for short amounts of time about things like bills, food, or the kids. He cared about Leo and Lily, Leo's little sister. He was more like a ghost, though, even with them there. It's there but not really there. I used to sit across from him at the table and wonder if he still saw me. I remember that morning very well. Ethan ran out the door while I was in the kitchen. He took his suitcase out, kissed Lily on the head, and gave me a quick look. "I'm sorry, Freya. I'm not able to make it today," he said. "Something came up at work." I didn't argue. I just nodded and swallowed the lump in my throat like I always do. I told myself it was fine. Leo and I could go by ourselves. Leo was 16 years old and tall and skinny. He had the brown eyes of his father, but a softer face. When I told him it would just be the two of us, he didn't say much. He just gave me a shrug, took the bags, and followed me to the car. He sat in the passenger seat, listened to music, and looked out the window like many teens do. I couldn't help but smile as I watched him. He changed so fast that I often thought I might blink and lose him, too. As I drove to the beach, my mind kept going back to Ethan, as it often did. I remembered the things we did together. Nights at the movies, long walks, and trips planned at the last minute just for fun. I thought about how he used to touch me, how his eyes would shine when he saw me. It had been years since I felt that way. I didn't feel much. I was worn out from not being seen. Leo helped me take our stuff to a quiet spot by the water when we got there. He set up the umbrella while I laid out the towels. I just had to talk to him for some reason. It could have been that he was the only one there. Maybe all I needed was someone to listen. "Do you agree that it's nice to be outside?" I tried to sound happy as I spoke. He brushed his hair back and nodded. "Yeah, Mom. It's nice," he said. When I lay down on the towel, the sun's heat hit my skin. I did nothing for a while to try to let go of the stress of the past few years, even if only for a short time. Then I thought of the sunscreen. I got up and looked at Leo. "Could you help me put sunscreen on my shoulders?" I asked. "I can't reach them." He thought about it for a second before he took the bottle from me. I lay down again with my back to the towel and tried to wait. He was careful and light with his first touch, like he didn't want to hurt me. It made me laugh because it made me think of how he held my hand with his little fingers when he was younger, so we could cross the street. "You can press a little harder," I told him, my voice quiet. "It's all right." As he put the oil on my shoulders and upper back, he became more sure of himself as he did it. It was the warmth and beat of his hands that made me close my eyes. I let myself enjoy it for a short time. I hadn't been touched in a long time. That thought hurt a lot more than I should have said. Then, though, his hands stayed on my upper back, applying the sunscreen evenly. I gasped for air and opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. In spite of having a lot on my mind, I kept quiet. I told myself everything was okay, that he was just helping out and I was making things up. I knew I wasn't, though. After he put down the towel, I realized the moment felt too personal, so I asked him to stop. "Thanks, that's enough for now," I said. The statement hung in the air like something dangerous. And as soon as I said it, I knew no one else was doing it. Leo didn't answer, and he stopped. I closed my eyes tight and felt the weight of my own loneliness. I thought he might hear my heart beating so fast. I was ready to get up and tell him to stop. I didn't, though. I was unable to. I didn't do anything about it. I still don't fully understand why. Maybe it was the feeling of being so alone. It could have been the need for recognition, even though it was wrong. Or perhaps I no longer cared. On that beach day, something inside me broke, and things haven't been the same since. Thanks for staying with me this far. I know this is hard to hear, and I appreciate you doing so. Please like and subscribe if you find this story interesting or think it might speak to someone you know. It helps me tell more stories like this, and makes me feel like I'm not alone. Let's move on now. Everything felt different after that day. The way Leo looked at me afterward, what had happened, and how I felt were all things I couldn't change. It wasn't short-lived or unimportant. It never stopped. When I looked into his eyes, I couldn't put my finger on what was making him look that way, but I also couldn't look away. It was all buried when we got home that night like nothing had happened. I did what I had to do. Made dinner, asked Leo about school, and folded clothes late at night. As I thought about what happened that afternoon, my hands shook the whole time. His presence, the way he stayed, and the way I felt tense all made me think of him. I felt bad about what I did, and didn't like that he made me feel that way about my own son. Ethan did not notice anything strange. He always got home late with his face tired and his tie slack. Out of habit, he kissed my cheek, leaving behind a faint hint of the love it used to hold. "A long day?" I asked to get a talk going. He just grunted and nodded, and he was on his way to the living room, the usual thing to do. His appearance made me feel like an afterthought, and I felt like I wasn't seen again. That night, Ethan snored next to me while I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Even though the house was quiet, my thoughts were very loud. I thought about Leo all the time, his presence, his eyes, and everything that had happened. I had to end it before it got worse, because I knew it was wrong. But a darker, lonelier part of me stuck to it, wanting the connection, the attention, and the sense of being seen. The days went by, and Leo never said anything about it, but his quiet spoke louder than any words. He didn't stay away from me. Instead, he seemed to stay up close. He would watch me while I cooked, cleaned, or just sat by myself at night. I let it happen. I didn't stop him or myself. The next weekend was unbearably hot, and the house felt like it was on fire. He was gone again because he had to work another last-minute shift. Again, it was just Leo and me. If he was okay with going back to the beach by himself, I asked him. I'm not sure why I brought it up. I might have thought that being outside would help me think more clearly. I might have wanted to test myself and see how far I could push everything away. It was quiet on the drive. Leo didn't use his ears this time. He did nothing but stare out the window, and his knee kept moving around. I tried to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come out no matter how hard I tried. The beach was almost empty when we got there. The water was a bright blue color, and the wind felt good against my face. Again, we spread out the towels, and Leo helped us get ready. I couldn't bring myself to ask him to put on sunscreen this time. I closed my eyes and laid down, acting like everything was fine. But I could still feel his eyes. He saw me, that's for sure. Later that afternoon, things finally broke. We chose to use the beach showers to clean up before going, just to get rid of the sand. It was meant to be quick, but something strange happened that I still can't explain. The first person to step under the water was Leo, who let it run down his back. I stayed out of the way and watched him for a moment before stepping in. I stepped away, feeling overwhelmed by my own loneliness. I told him we needed to rinse off separately. Leo looked at me with surprise. It was hard to read his face. It could be surprise, doubt, or something else. He didn't say anything. After looking into his eyes for a moment, I told him, "We need to keep things clear between us." I'm not sure why I said that. I might have been trying to show myself that I was in charge and could stop everything. Or maybe I was trying to set boundaries to see how I do. He paused for a moment, but then nodded. We were standing there by ourselves while the water fell. Slowly, I asked, "Can we talk about how to keep things right?" With my back to him? Yes, he did. Like before, he was careful with his response. It was clear that there was strain between us. I stopped moving when I felt the weight of my emotions. The air was thick and the sound of the water blocked out everything else. I might have been able to leave. I had the power to end it. Instead, I stepped away and told him we needed to talk about boundaries later. He didn't fight back when I did. What came next is hard for me to explain in full. I'm not going to. It was a blur of need, loneliness, and something deeper that I can't name. It wasn't about him. It was about my own emptiness. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. I didn't want to. After it was over, we just stood there under the water that kept pouring down, wiping away any remains that could be seen, but not the truth. He looked at me with concern, asking if I was okay. I let him. After that, we didn't say anything to each other. Following a silent walk back to the car, we dried off, packed up, and left. I caught a glimpse of Leo out of the corner of my eye and noticed that his lips were red and his moves were stiff. I knew I messed up everything. I was sure that we had crossed a line that could never be crossed again. Still, I felt alive for the first time in years. The ride home in the car started out quiet. It was squished and heavy inside the car, like the air itself was weighing us down. Even though I had my eyes on the road and my hands on the driving wheel, my mind wouldn't stop racing. I could still feel the weight of my own emotions, the size of what had just happened, his concern, and being there. I couldn't take my eyes off of him in the passenger seat. He sat still and stared out the window. His red face and tightened mouth showed how upset he was. Then, out of the blue, he spoke up. "Mom," he said in a timid, low voice. I didn't want to look at him. I didn't dare, but I could hear him well. "What? What did you do back there?" My heart beat faster. I thought for a moment about acting like I hadn't heard him, changing the subject, or ignoring it, but denying it didn't help. Not after what we did. After taking a shaky breath, I told them, "I don't know." It was true, or as close to it as I could get. It was hard for me to figure out what had happened, and why. I only knew that everything had changed. The quiet didn't end when we pulled into the driveway. The engine stopped when I did, but neither of us moved. Leo then looked at me very closely. Something scared me about what I saw in his eyes. It wasn't shame, guilt, or uncertainty. It was concern. "How long have you felt this way?" These words made me shiver when he asked. The same question had been on my mind when I looked into his eyes. Something inside me burst open. "I'm not sure," I spoke softly. Perhaps I might have said longer than I want to. We sat there in the dark with the weight of words that we didn't say filling the air. I believed that was the end of it. We were going to go inside, forget about it, and act like it didn't happen. Leo had other ideas, though. He looked at me with concern, asking if I was okay. I shook my head and told him we needed to talk about boundaries. It was slow, as if he was afraid I'd pull away. I didn't, though. I let him ask, and I answered back. I lost it at that point. It was either being alone, not being cared for in years, or the way Leo looked at me like no one else had in a long time. I didn't fight back against whatever it was. He leaned closer right there outside our house, asking if I needed to talk to someone. I felt alive for the first time in what seemed like a long time, needed, seen. Other things didn't matter. I don't know how long we talked there, but we went inside in the end. I can't even remember how I got to the door, just the way his concern felt and the tense silence between us. Once they got inside, things got worse. It was like we had been holding back for so long that we were finally able to let it out. The dam had broken. After that, the days were cloudy. Leo was always close to me and would find reasons to check in or look me in the eye when no one else was around. I told myself over and over to stop going through this. But every time I looked at him, I saw the same emptiness I was feeling. It was like we were mirrors, mirroring each other's loneliness, and I just couldn't say no. I didn't want to. I lay in bed next to Ethan at night and looked up at the ceiling while listening to his steady breathing. I could only think about Leo. His presence reminded me how much I craved connection, but I knew I had to find it elsewhere. I knew it was wrong and couldn't last. But I couldn't get away from the pull. Things got worse between us until they finally stopped. I washed dishes at the kitchen sink one night to take my mind off things while Ethan worked late and Lily was asleep. Leo was behind me. He looked at me with concern when I turned around. "Be careful," I said to Leo in a soft voice. He didn't run away, though. He got so close that I could feel his concern. "Mom, I worry about you all the time," he said. I went cold. I thought my heart might burst because it was beating so fast. I told him to hold on, go back to his room, and leave me alone. I should not have said that, but I did. I also can't stop worrying. That's when things broke. Leo stood close, looking concerned. I told him we couldn't blur lines like that again. I didn't care that it was wrong. I forgot about Ethan, Lily, and the life we had made together. Everything was about Leo, my boy, the only person in years who made me feel like I was important. Nothing is back to normal since that day at the beach. I don't think it will ever be. Leo and I crossed an emotional line that we can't take back. The shame is always there and hurts so much. It doesn't stop me, though. That's what scares me the most. I look at Ethan and Lily every day and wonder how they can't see it, the way they don't see the cracks in our family. It's possible that they are too busy with their own lives. Or maybe I'm just better at hiding it now. I know this won't last, though. Secrets always seem to come out. Things will break down when they do. I've tried to end it. I told myself it was wrong, that I and Leo both deserve better. But I lose myself every time he checks on me or looks at me like I'm the only one who matters. I haven't felt this alive in years because of him. Perhaps ever. That's the truth I have to face. This is broken, and I have no idea how to fix it. I'm not sure if I can do it. That's the reason I'm telling this story. I hope that someone knows the truth, something I haven't thought about. Please help me get out of this mess before it's too late. I want to hear from you if you have any help or if you know someone who has been through the same thing. At the very least, let this be a warning. Being alone can take you to places you didn't think were possible. Don't let it take over your life like it did mine. Don't wait until everything falls apart to understand what's going on. You can't go back once you cross that line. Thanks for hearing me. Feel free to share your ideas, like this video if it spoke to you, and follow for more. I need to feel like I'm not by myself. The worst betrayals aren't always the ones we do to other people. All of us do these things to ourselves.